Welcome to Catholic Champion. I'm your host, John Yep, co-host Michael Hichborn. We are talking today about the State of the Union and the state of our soul, which is the most important thing. And follow up from the Huckabee, Tucker Carlson interview in Tel Aviv, which has been breaking the internet. So stay tuned for a great show. See you soon. The State of the Union tradition goes back to our very first presidents, right? Thomas Jefferson started the tradition of actually writing it. It was like a letter that he would pen to the Congress, and that's how the State of the Unions were conducted in written form until Woodrow Wilson in 1911 began the actual speeches, right? So, and that since 1911 has continued to this day. Would it be or 11 or like whenever he's, or maybe it was 17 because he was president during the First World War. So right around that time, and we have that till today, and that's why President Trump addressed the nation yesterday, which many of us watched, talking about the State of the Union, the state of the United States, right? Obviously, it's a one-dimensional kind of analysis from a government perspective. It's not the state of the religious spirit of the nation, which obviously is the key. But yeah, we're going to talk about that today on the show. And Michael, I'm sure you watched it. Michael had notes. You want to show your notes? Michael's this was
I was jotting down notes as I watched.
Old style form, pen and paper. It's funny. I just saw I think it was Thomas Massey that went in, and saw some of the files of the Epstein list, and no phones, no nothing, and had to just write everything by hand, taking notes. So don't forget how to use your pen. Okay, it's very important. Many of us struggle today. Did you have to take handwriting classes when you were in grade school?
Remember of course. Yeah.
Do you remember
my handwriting is atrocious? Very few people can read my handwriting, but
do you remember cursive? You remember learning cursive?
Oh yeah,
that was.
I write in cursive so that millennials can't read what I have to say.
Exactly, it's like hieroglyphics, essentially.
That's right.
So, that's awesome. So yeah, before we get into the State of the Union, I mean, let's just hit it. Let's play a positive note. I mean, I watched. Michael and I were talking about this. Michael's not a hockey fan. I'm not really a hockey fan. I played a lot of hockey on the lakes of New Hampshire when I was like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid. It was awesome, memorable experience. I'm not that good at hockey, better at other sports. But when the United States is going into a gold medal round, and for the first time since like 1980, then it's like, okay, you got to pay attention, right? So it was Sunday morning, 6 a.m. our time, Arizona time. I knew that the game was coming, so I watched Miracle on Ice the night before in preparation, which is just a great movie. Please tell me you've seen that movie, though, Miracle on Ice.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
it was just called Miracle.
What's that?
It was just called Miracle.
Okay. Miracle, yes. Great movie talking about the 1980 team, right? What that was for significance when they beat the Soviets in Lake Placid. The name's slipping me. The people in the comments can say some of those key names, but great story of just American college athletes taking on the best in the world and delivering a victory, which is a transcendent politics, right? Or transcend the world of sports, because the U.S. really needed a booster in that moment, right? In our country. So great story. So I watched that the night before, and then woke up early next morning and watched what Americans watched all around the country when our boys took it to the Canadians for that matchup, and it was 1-1, went into overtime, and Jack Hughes, my man, Jack Hughes, scores. Did you at least see the goal? Or like, how about the shot? So Michael, he took the guy. We should show that shot if we had that. If not, no worries. I mean, he takes the stick to his face, loses some of his teeth. Now I know what that's like. I've skated when I was a kid. Again, playing hockey. I remember skating one time, and I'm flying around. And so one of my teammates, he was going off the bench, and he flipped over the bench. So his skate's coming at this level, and I'm flying around like this. Boom. Caught me in the teeth. Chipped my tooth. Took a blade right there. Yes, I kept playing like Jack, but it's not it's a brutal sport, you know. It's a intense sport, and gotta be physically fit. So anyway, Jack takes a shot to the teeth and ends up staying in the game, scores the winning goal overtime. You gotta see this if you haven't, and even if you have, you gotta watch it like 5 times. It's just such a great speech. Like, let's play that clip from Jack post game interview and get comments on that. I could watch that every single day. In fact, you know, maybe after I do adoration mass, I'll just like play that as I go into work. I mean, that's like someone called it like the best post game interview in sports, you know. And I think what that just embodies. I mean, contrast that with the women's hockey team, which is like they shunned President Trump's invitation to the White House and whatever.
They are coming to the White House.
Oh, are they coming?
Yes. President Trump announced that last night during the State of the Union. He said that the women's hockey team will be coming to the White House. They didn't go to the State of the Union. Apparently there was a conflict, but all the leftists were quick to glom onto that and say, "Oh, look at that. They don't want to come." But they're actually coming to the White House. So.
Well, good for them. That's great. I'm happy they're coming. But Jack, I mean, it's the spirit, you know. It's a humble. He's given the glory to his teammates, and you know, and we saw that. I think it gives hope for I think the future of our nation too. Just we have so many good people there who love what God has blessed us with, and yeah, it was good. Great victory for the U.S. Yeah.
And it's also a contrast with and I don't know who said this, but there was another medalist from America that was talking about how difficult it was to be an American these days. And you know, I don't know exactly who it was that said it, but I saw some indication that there was somebody making unpatriotic statements coming from one of the U.S. teams, and so this is a good contrast to that.
Hold that pig up there. Put it back on there. I mean, just think about that too, because you have so many people around the world, even to this day, because America's not perfect. We always talk about what's going on in the state, in the country. Yes, there's negative, and that's why we're here. But at the end of the day, it's still such a beacon of hope for so many around the world. I mean, you have people that, gosh, even if they even had access to watch the Olympics from like China, right in the heart of China, which it's like it's a surveillance state, or Iran, or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. And just to watch that picture is an inspiration. You know, the figure skater who grew up in China, her dad was persecuted by the CCP. She decided not to play for the CCP and came over to America and won the gold medal, right? I'm sure the name will come up in the comments too. So it's a beacon of hope, and it's a great country, and we're celebrating 250 years. And I guarantee that picture right there is going to be one of the most iconic in American sports history right there. So State of the Union. Okay. You know, we're going to kind of give the intro on that, what that is. You know, it happens once a year. It's an invitation from Speaker of the House to President, and he comes, they choose a date, and they come and they address the nation, and they give a rundown. It's got a report card. What have we done? How are we doing as a nation to come together, right? So, Michael, talk to us. I'm going to let Michael kind of take the lead of just some of the moments. We'll comment, break this down, and get feedback. So, what was the first thing that hit you when you saw the speech, Michael?
Well, the very first thing that hit me was watching Al Green get escorted out of the chambers because he decided to bring in a sign that was rather unseemly. Now, I did see Congress people, women and men, wearing some unseemly pins. I think it was Rashid, who had an F ICE pin on her lapel that I thought was inappropriate. They shouldn't be using that kind of language there. And
you know, the whole pin thing, it's like, do you remember in high school where like I went to Catholic school, high school, and like you had to be in uniform, and like they would crack you down, and like, you know, you couldn't wear extra stuff or whatever. And it's like the one display of individuality was like your shoes or your pins, right? So like they would use that as your expression of whatever message you want to get. It's like, it's the same kind of thing that's happening in the State of the Union. It's like that little space, that real estate right here is where you make your point, your message, right? So what were some of the pins they had, Michael?
Oh, one of them was F ICE, except the word was actually spelled out. Another one was release the blank files. So it was supposed to be release the Epstein files, but they were showing that they were all redacted. So they were saying release the blank files. Of course, the irony is that people have been calling for the release of these files for quite some time, and the Biden administration had them for 4 years and didn't release them, and they didn't clamor for him to release the files, and Trump did, and now they're upset because certain portions of them are redacted, portions pertaining to victims. Now there are some portions that probably shouldn't be redacted, but we're still working through that. But it's just the irony of what their messaging was in relation to what Trump was explaining and what his speech highlighted and spotlight and the direction that our country is taking and what he wants us to do. That contrast was on full display last night. Mm-hmm. And in most, I will say, I'll just jump straight to probably one of the most stark contrasts. There was a part where Trump was talking about protecting American citizens. At first he had Erica Kirk on there, and he talked about political violence. Now everybody got up and they clapped for, we shouldn't have political violence and there should be a motion against political violence. So even the Dems got up and they applauded for that. Then he showed the mother of the Ukrainian girl. I can't remember her name. Irina. Irina. I can't pronounce her last name. So he showed her mother. Of course, she was just devastated. I mean, the expression on her face was just.
This is the girl that was murdered sitting in
yes,
bus in South Carolina, and just came up behind, and Elon Musk really made her prominent and advocate. So yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So he talked about her, the murder of her daughter, and when people got up to applaud, the Dems remained seated. How do you not applaud somebody who lost their daughter in such a horrific way? How do you not support that woman? It was pretty awful. And then in a very masterful moment, he said, we need to have tough laws on offenders. We need to make sure that these offenders are not allowed to get out and get back into the public and commit these horrible crimes over and over and over again. And again, the Dems did not stand up and applaud. What he said, we need to, how do you put it? He said that we need to make sure that we put American citizens first, not illegal aliens, especially the violent ones. And the Dems, of course, refused to stand for that. And as the applause was going on, he pointed out and he said, look, not a single one of them are standing. They don't stand for you, meaning they don't stand for America. They don't stand for Americans. They're trying desperately to hold on to this idea that they should maintain an open border and allow these criminals, allow these psychopaths to come into our country and to do terrible things to our citizens. That's what the Democrats are supporting. So he was pointing that out. And what was very interesting about that whole segment was that he also called for the SAVE Act. He said, we need to pass the SAVE Act. He was talking about maintaining voter IDs. And it was actually really funny because as he was talking about, this was earlier, he was talking about the SAVE Act. He said, let's see, he said that there needs to be ID to prove citizenship, and there needs to be ID to vote in federal elections. And then he pointed out in New York that there was all this snow and people were looking for work to shovel snow, but Mamdani, the communist, was requiring ID to be able to vote for, or to be able to go out and shovel snow, but he doesn't want voter ID for voting. I mean, are you kidding me?
Really brilliant move by speechwriters who teed it up for Trump to be able to make that point, drove that home. Whoever was behind that, I know several White House speechwriters, past and present, And the work that they do to make that happen, so well done. And Trump in his personality just drove it home, right?
Yep.
So brilliant move. I mean, it's obvious. It's absolutely obvious. Immigration is designed disruption of the order created, the natural order of a country, right? That's pretty nuts. So yeah, keep going.
I'd like to actually jump to the clip of the moment when he called out the Minnesota Somali fraud.
Before we go there, I want to comment just on the fact that the Dems not applauding Irina. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Also, I think maybe we'll talk about this later, but when that 5-year-old child was hit by an 18-wheeler, okay, 18-wheeler truck, driven by an illegal immigrant in California. I think that's the famous clip when the guy they have in his truck cam was actually making like a Indian dish or something in his truck. He had his whole setup. He's cooking this meal while driving an 18-wheeler, okay, and slams into the car. And there was a 5-year-old beautiful girl there who miraculously survived.
The doctor said she would never walk. She would never talk. They were surprised she even survived. And there she was.
It's so really demonic because the people behind it that allowed this, that weaponized it, that desired this, they desired this chaos. And of course, he talked ad nauseum about how our bishops have been a part of this in some degree, right? So, okay, so they don't applaud. They just sit there. I mean,
can we actually jump to that clip? I want to show it.
Yeah, good.
I know that we've got it, so let's bring that up. Show the clip of the Democrats refusing to applaud Irina's mother and standing up against the violence coming out of that.
This statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens.
You want this clip or you want the one with the?
Well, we can show this one. I mean, this is part of it, but you can see. Look, none of the Democrats are standing in support of defending Americans against violent and illegal immigrants. Not a single Democrat is standing. He's going to point this out too. He's about to point it out. Look at him.
Brilliant move, Trump. Trump from The Apprentice, taking it as POTUS and just nailing it, using those skills.
Right. I mean, he's about to talk. If I'm a campaign manager, I'm just showing this clip over and over and over and talking about how whatever candidate on the Democrat side of the aisle did not stand up in support of American citizens. Did not. This is who the Democrat Party is. They hate America. They hate Americans. And they want the invasion of our country. That's what they want.
Kelly. That's Mark Kelly, by the way, Arizona Senator. By the way, on his official form, he's declared a Catholic. Believe it or not.
Unbelievable. Look at that. They're still applauding.
That drives it home. Yeah.
And the Democrats are still sitting. And here we go.
They do literally tee this up.
You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, and there, of course, you have the hecklers coming from the Democrat side, screaming about, whatever they're screaming about. You can't really hear them, but he says you should be ashamed of yourselves, and they're just heckling him. We live in two different countries, obviously.
Yeah,
this is not a United States. And I think that it's a folly for us to continue to call us united, because we have those on the other side of the aisle representing any other country in the world but ours. That's what they're doing.
A house divided against itself cannot stand.
Here's Abraham, the mother of Irina. Here we go. How do you not stand for her? Heartbreaking.
How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there.
Yep. Here, pause right there, because what we have to realize is that the Democrats are heartless monsters. They are not a party that is even on the side of humanity. It's inhuman to not support this idea that we should be punishing extremely violent criminals. It's unhuman. But you know, how can we possibly be surprised by this? Because the Democrat side of the aisle supports abortion all the way up to birth, and in some cases even after birth. For crying out loud, Canada just came out with a new, I don't know if it was a law or it's a proposal, but now they're saying that they want to be able to euthanize infants after birth, shortly after birth. They want to euthanize them, be able to euthanize them. This is inhuman. This isn't left and right. It's not politics. This is inhumanity. It is psychopathy. They are psychopaths.
It is in you're right. Good to go to the abortion. Like, why are we surprised? Because, you know, evil always begins in the silent recesses of the soul, the interior life. And as Christ says, all things come to light eventually. So it was there's silent screams within the womb, the destruction of those babies. We've been doing it for 50 years in this country, or 60, whatever it is. And at some point, you're going to see a more graphic exposition of this. Right. And of the filth of a conscience, of a soul that can do that. Well, of course, you're not going to stand and support a woman who's lost her daughter, right?
Right.
It's,
so, yeah, go ahead.
You know, it's I got to think, like, every time I see one of those clips where like they bring someone who's lost a child, a son, a daughter, and they get the applaud. It's like I'm happy they get the applaud, but every time I see that, also, I almost I connect with the loneliness that they feel too, even with all the applause, because it's a brief moment. It's such a brief moment of fame, of glory, of support, and that's good. That speech will end. They'll get, you know, hit up by friends for a few days afterwards. You saw them on TV, whatever. But 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you know, the next holiday, Christmas comes around, their birthdays, that mother will be alone. That she'll just have that. And it's just that stings me every single time, because I just know it's like, again, the only comforting thing is our Lord on the cross. That's it. That's it. Yep. You know, and that's our faith is everything. Is the only thing that can really applause is so it's passing, right? So again, we've got to continue to preach Jesus crucified. He is the one guarantee of hope for humanity. I digress. Keep going, Michael.
So we also, I do just want to go to the Minnesota Somali community fraud.
Yes.
I want to jump to that, because that whole section I thought was masterful. It was right. It was timed just right. The way he phrased it was perfect. And the reaction is exactly what you would expect coming from the Democrats, especially Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who were sitting next to each other. If we can jump to that clip, let's do that. I want to show this.
Yes, thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse.
Pause real quick. So do you hear in the background the yelling that's coming? That I'm pretty sure that's Ilhan Omar that's doing that yelling, because she wound up, you catch her on film a little bit later after he finished his talking here. You'll see her shouting. I'm pretty sure that heckling is coming from her. She is really distressed, and you'll see a picture of her or a video shot of her. She's extremely distressed that he's highlighting this and spotlighting it, and the fact that he said, we've got all the receipts. We've got all the receipts. We are investigating this. I believe that the Trump administration is ready to start conducting not just a fraud case, but possibly enacting arrest warrants for those who were directly engaged in this fraud. It's going to be extremely, extremely interesting to see how this plays out in the coming days, but keep going.
This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
Awesome. You look right at Ilhan Omar right there.
We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah.
That's it. What he said about the Somalis is priceless.
Spot on. It's awesome. He needs to.
Delilah Colvin was only 5 years old in June.
Oh yeah, so this is the little girl. So there was a point where he called out the Somali pirates, and then they actually cut to Ilhan Omar right there. You see this look of shock on her face when he starts talking about these Somali pirates in Minnesota. There she is, and then of course Rashida Tlaib, she's got the F ICE pin on the other side of her lapel. It's
a great framing. Again, a great word choice. Somali pirates, right?
And that's exactly what was going on. Yeah.
It's what was the movie? Somali pirates. Remember the Navy SEALs?
Oh right, yes.
They rescued
Tom Hanks movie, right?
Exactly. Come on, people. Comments, help us out. Yeah. So obviously he's playing on an analogy, which is brilliant because the Somalis that would take over tankers, American tankers, a lot of them, oil tankers, and that famous movie where our SEALs make that incredible shot, right? Where it's a bobbing little craft, and they shoot. So there's but great reference. That's what it's been. 100%. It's been pirate. They've been stealing. They've been stealing this money. The Democrat apparatus, specifically Tim Walz, right, was at the tip of the spear, overseeing his operation. That's why he's really squirming a lot, right? So, God bless President Trump for calling this out. And also,
there you can see the F ICE pin on Rashida Tlaib's. That's wholly inappropriate, absolutely inappropriate, and unbecoming of a Congress person, woman or man. Absolutely unbecoming, and she should have been removed from the chamber for wearing it.
For lack of decor, absolutely. By the way, let's not forget too, how did this whole Somali thing get exposed in the first place? Okay, citizen journalist.
Yep. Nick
Sorter. Okay, who just a normal dude who just went there and just started filming, recording, and bringing this to light. And I think there's it's ironic. I had this conversation with a priest yesterday, great priest from outside the state, and we were talking about just like, if it was going to debate back and forth about if we should let like the DOJ conduct its own investigations without going online as podcasts or speaking up or investigating, right? And, you know, he was like more old school, like, well, it's just the DOJ do with their job, right? With different things. I'm like, Father, with all due respect, I mean, this is 2026. Like, we've had so many, like, look at Epstein. I said, Father, look at Epstein files. Those would never really have come to light if it wasn't for people like Thomas Massey, Outsiders, Candace, Charlie Kirk, demanding those Epstein files be released. That's why we have that today. Thank God we do. Citizen journalists, right? They're the backbone, the free press. I'm not talking about the media, the state media, which is like falling apart, conservative or controlled opposition on some of these major networks. It's really independent media, which got Trump elected, by the way. Independent media, those podcasters, Joe Rogan, etc. But it's independent media who have the mission for this democracy. So God bless Nick Sorter for teeing this up so POTUS could drive it home here at the State of the Union.
Yep. I do want to get to, let's see, I had another note here that I want to, oh, right. So there is a portion where Trump calls out the banning of states from taking children from their parents because they think they're trans. If we can jump to that real quick, I think this is actually a really, really important point that he made. And I'm trying to remember where in the conversation that was. I did send our producer the clip portion, so if he could jump to that, it's shortly after the SAVE Act conversation. He does talk about the SAVE Act. He says that the only reason that the Democrats are opposed to the SAVE Act, by the way, is because they cheat. And they cheat because it's the only way they can get elected. And I think he's right. I think the majority of Americans actually aren't in full favor of the Democrat Party. I think that they're more a minority than anybody's willing to admit. But here, let's listen to what he says here about the trans.
All boys stayed home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full ride scholarship. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we've been talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately.
And then, of course, they cut to...
Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you. They're crazy.
Yep. Well, the feed I was watching, they immediately jumped to the one trans member of Congress.
We're lucky we have a country with people
from
like
Connecticut.
this.
Yep.
Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we?
Yep.
He's right. It's awesome. It's you know, it's this is obviously they didn't applaud the fact that Trump is trying to ban secret gender transitions, right? Which is among the most vile things that happens in this country. We interviewed Erin Lee about a month ago. She's a woman from Colorado who literally had state authorities, or it was a local high school, try to transition her daughter without her knowledge, experienced it firsthand. Thanks be to God, she was able to pull her daughter back. In fact, she tells a story. I mean, this stuff is really happening. This is not like, we're gonna remember this, man. She had the state investigators come to her house, and she didn't know this at the time, but they came because they had heard reports from the high school, whatever, that their parents were being supportive of her, of her inklings. And it was only because of the kind heart of the state investigator, basically kind of like had mercy and just said, you know what, I came here really to do a report to try to get the state to be able to empower the state to take your child away from you. But I'm going to just tell you, this is what's happening. That's by the grace of God. And she was able to, you know, retain or keep her God-given right as a parent to keep her child. She becomes an advocate later. And she watched the interview somewhere on her channel, but this happened. And she's in touch with like 6 other families in Colorado alone, where this has literally happened. They've taken away their children by child protection services, right?
Yep.
Disgusting. So
just to kind of rush through a lot, because we have other things that we want to get to today, but just to kind of go through and give an overview, there were other things that were going on. He opened his comment talking about how they ended DEI, thanks be to God.
Right.
You know, as he pointed out, these people are crazy, meaning the Democrats, and I said this before, and I'll repeat it, the Democrat Party is an inhuman political party. It's not politics. It's actually anti-human. It's anti-person. They want to destroy humanity. They want to destroy this country. And you know this because of who they represent and the kinds of things that they support. When you're supporting trans ideologies, when you're supporting abortion, when you're supporting the invasion of this country, when you're supporting violent criminals over the safety of our own citizens, everything that they are doing is predicated on the destruction of our country and the destruction of our citizens. That's everything that they do. So when he points out they're crazy, he's 100,000% spot on. Now, everything that he said here about the Democrats is absolutely true, but not everything that he's doing is all that good. And one thing that I do want to point out, this is a dishonorable mention, was that he was extremely supportive of IVF right there in the chamber during the speech. He pointed, I can't remember who the young woman was, but she was the first to receive federal funding for her IVF drugs, or the reduction of the drug prices. So he was supporting her and supporting IVF, and that's a bad thing. That's not a good thing. In vitro fertilization results in abortions. And where a baby isn't aborted because they're trying to pick the right one, the right zygote to implant in the woman, they either destroy the rest or they put the rest on ice. So you have a problem of snowflake babies, thousands and thousands and thousands of snowflake babies that are currently on ice, not developing, but they have a living soul and just the beginnings of a life, and they're on ice. They're not allowed to develop. They're not allowed to grow, but they are real human persons, every single one of them. And this is a huge travesty in our country. And the fact that Donald Trump is supporting this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. He may think that it's a pro-life thing, but he needs to have somebody with real knowledge to sit down with him and say, look, you're actually suppressing an entire generation of people and preventing them either from having a life because they're being destroyed, they're being killed, or because they're being put on ice, they're in suspended animation. And this is a travesty, and it's a horror show. So that's a dishonorable mention. It's not something that I support, and I think that it's a real black mark on an otherwise stellar evening.
Great narration right there. IVF is Trump is a pragmatist, right? And that's the problem too, when your modus operandi is just what's pragmatic, at least in the short-term pragmatism. Family needs to have these couples that go through tremendous pain. They're not able to have kids. We know those people. God's very close to that suffering of that couple that wants to have a child. That's the greatest gift a couple can have. And so they're suffering, and they're being given these means which seem maybe okay on the surface, but they break fundamental lines of the natural law, right? From the beginning of how the semen is obtained, right? Which it's procreation outside the sexual act, right? And then, as you mentioned, the injustice to these children, these souls that are in freezers all across America. Okay. And, you may think, oh, I can just put the kids in the freezers and they're there and out of sight, out of mind. But remember how the natural law works too. It's God's law in our hearts. So even if we make a sin that's so grave like that, we may try to put it out of our thing, but it wounds us. It's going to work on our psyche, whether you try to ignore it. That's why women who try to say abortion is fine, they become some of the most depressed people until they acknowledge the fault. Look at Abby Jordan's story. you have to acknowledge and you can't run away. It's Adam and Eve could not hide in the garden. The bushes didn't work, right? They felt that sin.
Right.
And what was that clip we had the other day on our social media where that woman was like having to make the decision whether to stop paying for her daughter or her children that were in ICE. It's like $80, whatever it is. I mean, when you start looking at the actual numbers, how much it costs to like pay for your kid to be in a freezer.
Right.
I mean, it's there. And I give a lot of on a positive note, talk to a politician. He's either, I don't want to quote this quote, he's either writing for the government, that James Fishback or somebody else, Catholic, and or maybe it's John Frankman. Both John Frankman's a good guy. We've endorsed him, Catholic guy, former seminarian, but they, they're very vocal about they're against IVF, which is not a very popular thing right now in the Republican Party. Okay. So we have to be speaking up. We got to be talking, speak, narrate, evangelize.
Right.
People set us free. So great that you mentioned that, Michael.
Just a couple other things to run through. We've got the fact that Trump honored 2 World War II veterans. He gave one the Congressional Medal of Honor. He honored Millie Kate and her rescuer.
Yeah, that's just a great story. I got to pause there. The guy's 100 years old, fought in World War II.
Both of them were.
It's insane. And yeah, we got a surprise up our sleeve, by the way, with the World War II veteran. Catholic Prayer for America. Stay tuned for that. Trying to pull that one off. But these guys are heroes, man. So like it was Royce, right? Royce fought in WW2, goes to Korea, 1952, and gets in a dogfight in blizzard conditions, and 7 Soviet MiGs are after him. These guys shot up all over, and the story like remains quiet for 50 years. There he is, right?
Yeah, there he is.
The story untold for 50 years. He didn't even tell his wife.
Yep.
And just incredible, right? So proud moment for the nation.
You bet. So Trump honored Millie Kate and her rescuer, who the Texas floods last year, you'll remember, that swept through a girls' camp and many of them drowned. It was absolutely devastating. But Donald Trump honored her and honored her rescuer with the Legion of Merit. You had several other things that were going on, but one thing that I do have to point out here, he did honor Royce Williams, as we pointed out. There was a story. He did also give the Congressional Medal of Honor to the Chinook helicopter pilot that led the raid on Maduro's palace. And the Chinook helicopter pilot, he was severely wounded. But what really got my attention was as Trump was telling the story, he started the story by saying that his wife sprinkled holy water on the dog tags of this young man, this pilot, before he went into combat. And I was just, wow. Yeah. So I thought that was a very interesting point that he would point that out, that this was how that story went down. And then he told the harrowing story of how it happened and how he took shrapnel and or took some shots and repositioned the Chinook to drop the troops. And then he turned over to his co-pilot and said, "You take over because I'm about to pass out from lack of blood," because he was bleeding out. Absolutely heroic. So he got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and there were a few others that he honored the airman that was shot and killed, and then the other one that was shot and sustained a brain injury, but is still recovering. So he honored them as well. So it's
our American military is just, we have the best in the world. We have such gifts. A lot of them are Catholics in the military. They are. And again, the travesty of how many had to exit because they refused to take the jab, right? But just to think about that pilot who was, I read the story, like shot up all over as he's descending the Chinook helicopter, but it held his grip. That should trigger in us to think about, we have this gift in our American intelligence, men and women who serve. That should trigger in us. We have to be so careful about how we use these men and women around the world, or how they are other countries may try to use our American forces for their own ends to fight stupid wars. But we'll get to that later. So yeah, keep going, Michael.
So the other thing I want to point out is Abigail Spanberger's response. Now, I can speak directly about Spanberger because she was my representative when she first got into politics. She came out of nowhere. She ran against a popular sitting representative in our district and somehow eked out the win. Now, I think that the guy that was our representative before her, he kind of phoned in his campaign, because we had a pretty solidly conservative district. So he kind of phoned in his campaign and didn't campaign very well. And she eked out that win. And she's been using that role, that position, to stepstone her way up. And now she's the governor of the state of Virginia. Look at that smarmy face. I mean, she oozes smarminess, and she's a psychopath. She's an absolute psychopath. She's a CIA operative. She gave her entire bio, her job bio, her curriculum vitae right there in the middle of her response, talking about how she was in law enforcement. And then she got into the CIA. She said she was an undercover agent in the CIA, which tells you just how affiliated with the deep state she is. And what did she do? She called Trump a liar. She said that, she asked 3 questions. Is Donald Trump making life more affordable for Americans? Now, the irony is she is behind 50 plus tax hikes here in the state of Virginia, 50, as she's talking about making things more affordable. Well, I can tell you things are not going to become more affordable for me. And when she runs for president on the Democrat ticket, I guarantee she'll run as a moderate. She's not a moderate. She's a communist. And she is going to be pushing that just an absolute gobsmacking amount of taxes on the American people. She will bankrupt this country. And then, of course, as she's talking about how Donald Trump said that he's making America safe. And is America safe? And she started rattling off all these reasons that she thinks that America is not safe. Ironically, what is she doing in Virginia? She is reducing sentences for violent criminals and allowing rapists to walk. This is what she's doing. This is what she represents here in the state of Virginia. And that's exactly what she will do if she were to become president of the United States. She has to be opposed forcefully and on all sides. Otherwise, this country will be gone her first term. Gone.
It's her counter speech, which you just talked about. It highlights again. And I think I read a post from Matt Walsh about this, his comments on the State of the Union. At the end of the day, okay, there are 2 parties. Okay, maybe this is the last thing we'd say about the State of the Union, and then we can move on.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 sides really, operating here. Like one, as you said, Michael, it's like not even. They hate this country, right? It's like they're anti-human, that they're capable of this travesty of abortion, or not applauding for people that just illegal aliens that just slammed into a 5-year-old girl, right? And on a highway, right? Truly vile stuff. Trump says they're crazy. That's his pragmatic, basic spiritual line way of saying, probably doesn't know this, but that's demonic, right? In a lot of ways. So there are really 2 sides in this country. That being said, it's Democrats, Republicans. Why we're in such a pickle, okay, is that the other side, this would be the Republican, the GOP, is riddled with serious issues as well. And those of us at the base, as the polling shows, Trump even referenced it recently prior to the speech, I think in Atlanta, just how low some of the poll numbers is. The base is really kind of burned out in many ways. We've wanted President Trump to do a lot more things. Accountability is like probably one of the top issues. The lack of arrests, a lack of people that went after so many good Americans in the Biden administration that still have not been held accountable under Kash Patel, Damagino, whoever, Pam Bondi. So we're seeing that, and that's one example. We're seeing the fact that we're on the verge of war with Iran. It's serious. It makes no sense to the average American. Why can nuclear bombs? But then you have legitimate intelligence figures who said they really are not in. There's no threat of a nuclear weapon. Okay, there really is not.
Right.
So you have two parties, but the party that we have to like go along with is so entrenched and does not really. It's not phased when we the people kind of want to push back and say we abhor a lot of things you stand for or the inaction that you're doing, right? So it's a very dangerous situation for America. It's two parties, but it's like one party is like, wow, a lot of holes. So that's why, I mean, primary season's key, which we're in primary season for the midterms, because it's like our only chance to really kind of choose better candidates who we might send to run against a Democrat, right? But it's anyway, I think that's important because we have done in this conversation, but we're not saying Republican Party, President Trump administration, all amazing. It's not. But we have to continue speaking up. So
and I will point out that during Spamberger's rebuttal, which wasn't a rebuttal, it was more of a plug for herself. But during her rebuttal, one thing that she said I can sort of agree with was that she said that Trump put a lot of unserious people in serious positions. And you pointed out Dan Bongino, who's a shock jock, Kash Patel, who's done almost nothing as head of the FBI. You've got Pam Bondi, who hasn't arrested a single person in relation to Epstein. So you have this question about, well, what are these people doing? But at the same time, she says, well, he put these unserious people in these positions without ever considering and pointing out that Joe Biden put a transgender woman as head of the health department. And he put this Satanist and a transgender bisexual Satanist in charge of our nuclear weapon or our nuclear energy. And he put a same-sex married homosexual in charge of our transportation, who had no experience with transportation, caused all kinds of catastrophes in this country over the duration of his term. She said nothing about that and only pointed out, well, he's only appointing unserious people. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Look at the record prior to this. Not just unserious, dangerous and deleterious are the two words that come to mind.
For sure. And that's again, elections matter at the end of the day. I know we're fed up with one party, but elections matter. We could have had the other option. I mean, compare the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, also a Catholic in name, to the current Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, Catholic. Two dichotomies, okay?
And competent. Sean Duffy is incredibly competent.
That well said. Exactly. So elections matter. Your voice matters. We have an impact. We got to keep doing this. So let's we're fortunately we don't have a lot of time to go into this. So maybe I'll just play one quick clip from this famous interview going into next week. The Tucker Carlson Mike Huckabee interview. Tucker goes to Tel Aviv, and the reason he went to this interview with Ambassador Mike Huckabee of Israel is because Ambassador Mike Huckabee kind of called him out, kind of challenged Tucker to this debate or conversation to talk to him in person. He shows up, stays at the airport. The whole interplay of how that actually happened and how there was going to be at the embassy, but Tucker was a little bit unnerved that he wasn't given protection as an American on the way to the embassy. And it was you should watch the intro when you can, just because it's off. And I totally agree that Tucker should have had much more protection. That's why he stayed in the airport, but it wasn't given to him, wasn't afforded to him. So Ambassador Huckabee comes to Tel Aviv airport. They do the interview there, and they talk about a wide range of things from, what is Mike Huckabee as the ambassador? What does he consider the actual physical geography of Israel? He challenged him about the Epstein files. He challenged him about why did Huckabee want to meet with a former spy, Jonathan Pollard, who spied in the U.S. and gave secrets to Israel, who gave it to Russia. Very good, very, very well done interview. But maybe just one clip, since it's pertinent to the fact of what we're on the verge of potentially going to war with Iran. Let's play the clip where he asks Ambassador Huckabee, about fighting wars on Israel's behalf. So let's play a quick clip from there.
While we're waiting for the clip, one of the things that Trump talked about in his speech last night was how he ended a large number of wars and kept us out of a large number of wars during his first term and also into this term now. And he made kind of an oblique comment reference to Iran and allegedly having weapons of mass destruction, but he didn't really go into that, and he didn't seem to really want to address this. But I think it's an important point, and I think it's important that you're bringing this up now.
Let's play that clip.
Worthless or a completely disposable life. That's
Right.
what makes me pro-life, Tucker.
I totally agree.
And I believe that from the conception until the end of natural life.
That's why I would never say, when confronted with the death of children, war is terrible, because it minimizes the deaths of those children. It's awful. And
I don't think it minimizes. I think it is
War is
outrageous. It's a terrible thing. I wish we never had war. Why do we have war?
We're about to have one with Iran, it looks like. How many Americans do you think will die in that war?
I hope none. None died last year when we participated in the 12-day war. Not one.
My sense
You said
is-
20,000 would die, and they didn't.
I said could, and they could have. And
But
they
they didn't.
could die now, and that's a real risk.
How many boots on the ground do you think the U.S. has supplied for Israel over the course of its life? How many times did we put soldiers on the ground for Israel?
Well, we had the Iraq War, which was for Israel.
No,
I
it
think
wasn't
it's
for Israel.
How was it for us?
Well, because it was a retribution against 9/11. Now, was it the best idea?
Was
It was
Iraq
not for-
involved in 9/11?
Our government thought so.
Why are 9/11 documents still classified?
I have no idea.
Should they be unclassified?
I think so.
All of them, right?
I have no problem with that.
Me too.
I like transparency. I like sunlight.
I do. Too. I hope you'll call for
I
that.
like free press. I like free speech.
I totally agree.
I like all of that.
But if there was no connect, I'm open to anything, but I've never seen any connection.
Well, I could go on. It's a great interview. Again, this is almost like our trailer for next week when we'll go into this. But he makes the point. It's which many Americans are asking, like all of the wars and the attention that we've had for the Middle East.
Yep.
Does it have an outsized impact on our resources, on our men and women? And he brings up the Iraq War. They could have gone deeper into that, because that does beg a lot of questions. Why did we go over there? It wasn't really related to 9/11 in the first place. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They lied about that. So boots on the ground, Ambassador. Yeah, we had a lot of people.
Well, and interestingly enough, why did we go to war with Afghanistan? I mean, Afghanistan actually had nothing to do with 9/11, because Osama bin Laden is a Saudi. He's from Saudi Arabia. And, you start putting the pieces together, and you start looking at, well, what was this about? What was that about? One thing that many people don't realize is that George Bush had plans on his desk to invade Afghanistan days before 9/11. Why did he have plans to invade Afghanistan prior to 9/11? What was that all about? I don't know the answer, but the point is that there's something else going on. There's something happening behind the scenes. There's some other motivation and influence that is involved in the decision-making process for us to go to war in various countries in the Middle East. And there's certainly something going on to prevent us from going to war with other countries in the Middle East. So what are those influences? And I think that that's something worth investigating.
So key. I mean, because wars have devastating effects on the civilization. I mean, this goes back to, really to the beginning of time, where they do false flags operations to trigger wars. You had the Nazis did in 1939 and dressed up as Polish soldiers, right, to fake it, to feign an attack and trigger the invasion afterwards. U.S. history, Gulf of Tonkin,
right,
triggered Vietnam. That was a complete lie by the CIA. We were not attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin, which triggered the Vietnam War, which cost 68,000 American lives eventually, right? Yep. So you have that, or more recently, just we got to be so careful, and as a citizenry, because we have those guys who just got the Medal of Honor. They're amazing heroes. They take bullets for us. They don't question. They go into fire. They trust their leaders. They have to. But you have this whole thing. We've covered it. The June War, the 12-day war, wasn't. Israel wanted a lot longer war than a 12-day war there. They wanted a lot more than just us bombing their nuclear sites. Thanks be to God for people like Charlie Kirk, may he rest in peace, who advocated against that, right? He spoke up. He went to the White House and said no. Tucker Carlson also just came back from the White House 3 days ago, met with President Trump, begged him not to go with that war with Iran. So I think it would be devastating. It would be absolutely devastating. And I don't see, as many of us, What's the urgent need? Why do we need to go there for Iran? Right. So what does it even look like? But we can talk about that no more. Michael, get a final word there before we wrap this session up.
Well, one thing that I'll say about going to war with Iran, a lot of people think that Iranians hate America, and that's just not true. It's just not true. That maybe the Iranian regime does, but the Iranian regime hates its own people. And as Trump pointed out last night, they murdered 32,000 of their own people when they rose up against the regime there. I do think that there's a very serious problem with Iran, but I want to make sure that whatever happens, it's not that we don't have a disposition and a hatred towards the people of Iran, because the people of Iran love America. They love America. They are, as the priest that I climbed Mount Ararat with pointed out to me, they not only love America, but they're some of the most welcoming and open people you'll ever meet. They are extremely charitable. And I met a group of Iranians as we walked down Mount Ararat, and they were just what he said they were. They gave us all sorts of adulation because we were from America, and it was a sight to behold. It was not something I expected. So if there is a war with Iran, we have to keep in mind that the war is against the regime, not against the people. The people are actually very good, and they really do love Americans.
Talk about the worst way to bond. You have a government that doesn't get along with its people. Outside force invades. What's the natural reaction? The natural reaction of the people is to turn more to the government, which hates them. They hate each other, right? So they unite under this thing. So it's like it's a recipe for disaster, right? Look at, I don't even know what's our goal for Iran, but General Flynn had a great point on his post. Like, if we're going to invade in some capacity or subdue this country or whatever that looks like, look what it took to invade Okinawa, the tiny island. April 1st, 1945, when we invaded. It took like 2 months to subdue the population, and horrible loss of life for the United States Marines. Yep. It's like you can't even compare. So it's serious, and that's why we're all suspicious, rightly so, when Benjamin Netanyahu goes another trip to the White House to demand the Lord knows what. So time for prayer. We're gonna wrap this up. That's why we're doing Catholic Prayer for America coming up in a few weeks. It's shaping up to be, it's already a viral event for many different reasons. Gotten the attention. We, talked about Mark Levin going after our event a couple weeks ago, and it's good. We need to be, prayer has to be the front and center of everything we do. That we don't have a chance. We don't have a prayer, literally, to survive as a country for the next 250 years without that. So, we have the relics coming. We announced that a few weeks ago. In fact, I had the relic of Saint Joseph. You might this exists. The relic of Saint Joseph from the mantle of Saint Joseph. Okay. I'm getting that in advance. We're going to have that here at C4C for the next couple of weeks leading up to the event. So those relics of the saints will be there. The saints will be praying with us for this nation. And we have a bunch of priests already coming. So if you know priests, they can invite them. We're eating the cost, so to speak, Catholics for Catholics. So your local parish priest can attend. We want them there. And we have a few more surprises up our sleeve as we get closer to that day. So thank you all again. Keep the faith, keep the hope alive, hope in Christ. This is Lent, and the state of union is important, but the state of our souls is even more important. So stay in the state of grace, as Jesse Romero always says, my friend, our friend, and God bless. Fight on, and we'll see you next week.